When my security camera gave an alert, I didn't call the cops. I called my therapist. My phone buzzed violently with an alert at 2:15 a.m. that it nearly fell off the nightstand and woke me up. I looked at my phone. It was my security camera alert. It read, "Motion detected." A man I didn't recognize in a gray hoodie comes up to the camera and asked, "Is Bean asleep?" That name was an extremely private nickname me and my wife had for our 7-year-old daughter. There was no way anyone else knew it. The man waited for a few minutes before disappearing into the darkness. I just jumped out of bed and ran. I didn't think. I got to my daughter's room and found her safe and asleep in her bed. I quickly locked her window from the inside and then locked her door. I felt my heart quicken. That nickname, Bean, had been between my wife and I when we saw the first ultrasound. On the ride home, I jokingly said our daughter was a Bean. The nickname stuck between us. I didn't sleep. First thing in the morning, as soon as the police station opened, I called. They watched the video, then politely told me there was nothing they could do. The stranger hadn't done anything threatening, and childhood nicknames weren't really confidential. I felt a little better, but that lasted exactly one day. The next night, another alert showed on my phone. The same man in the same gray hoodie came even closer to the camera and speaker. "Bean still hates the blue toothbrush. The purple one works better," the man said. I felt chills down my spine. The toothbrushes were kept inside the bathroom cabinet. I watched him disappear again. I called the police again. They added it to the report, told me to just be careful, and immediately call the emergency if the stranger escalates. No police came to check on us. I started to sleep on the couch. My wife went from thinking this was some kind of sick prank to going completely crazy. The stranger kept showing up in our camera and giving tidbits about our daughter that generally weren't known. Things like what her first stuffed animal was. My wife kept going crazy asking people. We were actually banned from school pickup. We had to ask my mom to come pick up our daughter. I didn't sleep. I watched waiting like clockwork. The point that I felt the house of cards fall was about 2 weeks later. The stranger came back and didn't speak, just breathed heavily on the camera, fogged it up, and wrote in the fog the name of the hospital where my daughter was born. She'd been born on an army base where I was last deployed. Then it hit me. The only place I'd ever talked about or mentioned anything like these bits of information was my mandated therapy sessions. The next morning, I called my therapist's office. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. This time there was a recording saying the phone number was inactive. I texted her cell number, but it immediately came back that it couldn't go through. I checked her website. It was gone. I drove past her office that afternoon. The office was empty and the building was marked as for sale. Something was off and I wanted to know what. That night, I waited by the door with my service weapon in my lap. At exactly the same time, the stranger showed up on my porch. This time, I opened the door and pulled the weapon. The man froze. "Who are you?" I demanded. My voice sounded more confident than I felt. The man just looked at me in fear. "She said you'd leave. You're not supposed to be here." He trembled. "Who?" I asked. "The doctor." "She said I could see my kid if I followed all the rules and did everything she told me to do without asking questions," he said. "The police came thanks to my neighbor calling." The man didn't resist arrest and just looked like he regretted life. At the station, the man confessed he had been seeing the same therapist, that he, the therapist, would pay him to freak out other clients. But when the police tracked down the therapist 2 days later, the therapist denied everything, denied knowing who we were, that she never treated any patients. The man ended up being diagnosed with delusions and held at a psych ward. The case closed and I thought it was over. But one night, my wife was tucking our daughter into bed. She looked at her mother and whispered, "Good night, Bean." We'd never told her that name. My wife asked her where she'd heard it. "Someone told me," my daughter replied. When my wife told me, I knew somehow that this wasn't over yet.